Alright, so today I wanted to share with you something that I find very interesting. It is some of the information, not really intelligent design itself, but the information that they put out. The critique that I would offer for intelligent design is that it works with what they're doing in like the realm of like political sway and census views and all of that. But it doesn't really, I wouldn't say it really causes like the persecution that the Christian Bible says will happen if you stand up for the truth. So while they offer a lot of interesting information, I feel like it kind of neglects the actual cause. So, for example, it's more along the Masonic lines of embracing everybody's code of ethics, whether you're a Muslim, a Christian, or a Hindu person, or I can't remember exactly, like Buddhism and things like that. They have it like Shintoism and things like that. Well, anyways, I would like to show you kind of some of the interesting aspects that I find in the intelligent design movement. So here we have I'm going to produce a timeline. So here's a timeline, and this we'll say is um, right when we'll say that this is right when life appears, right? So life appears, and then life now. Now, one of the problems here is the how do you get from no life right here to life on this section of the timeline? So there is no sufficient causal explanation. So here is the way that they try to explain this little section right here of the timeline. They say it would be equivalent to saying that the tornado can go through a bunch of Legos and produce a car. So it's like there's no life, and there's tornadoes, and this tornado is going through, and it's tearing up the ground, and it's mixing in some water, and all of a sudden you have a self-replicating organism that can reproduce and cause itself to continue up until here, to where now we have giraffes and humans and everything as life as we know it, plants, animals, birds, and and then like so we another way of saying that would be like a crystal. You have a crystal, right? And it has like maybe six sides or whatever. That looks kind of like an obelisk, I'd say. Or but tornado. See, there appears to be a structure here in this tornado. It's got that nice little cone cylinder shape, and right here this maybe it's a quartz crystal, right? Has a structure, but see, they're not actually, these aren't actually doing anything. They're not forming proteins and causing life to move forward on this timeline. These just sit here. Like, so this crystal might have been formed a billion years ago or something, and maybe it's just set here during this whole entire timeline, right? Or this tornado comes here. We don't see tornadoes producing life. Tornado happens here on the timeline. Tornado happens here, not producing life. You can't see it. There's no causal explanation between what tornadoes do or what crystals do and the complicated mechanisms that we see in life. So here's the DNA helix. Now this has some causal, sensical language in it. There's actually language in this DNA helix. This the A, T, G's, and C's actually serve like as a computer language that's causing the cellular machinery to do what it's supposed to. So you have A, T, and then maybe T, A. I don't know exactly how all of this works. G, C. But this is the language. This is the language of life. This is what makes it go. This is what makes us tick. And all life on Earth is a composite of these building parts in some way. A, T, G, and C. These four, right? And so what they expect us to believe in the neo-Darwinian mindset, which no serious scientist really believes anymore, but they still put it in children's textbooks. They actually expect us to believe that from lightning striking a mud puddle that maybe had some crystals in it, or a tornado, these are the kinds of explanations that say gave rise to life. But you would have to have, for example, the A, T's, G's, and C's in that mud puddle when the lightning struck it. And this is serious, folks. This is what scientists literally believe. That's their explanation of how you got to life in the first place. Now, I've learned this stuff from like the concepts that Stephen Meyer puts forth and Michael Behe put forth, and like the things that David Berlinski described, and it's all very complicated. William Dembski, way out of my league of my mind and how it works, but so DNA is like a recipe book, and the cellular machines, I guess it'd be the RNA polymerase, goes to the DNA helix and finds the recipe that it needs. Now, sometimes copies of the entire recipe book are made, but other times they just come in here and they get the particular recipe they need at the time. To like maybe you get a cut or something, so it comes to the recipe book and fixes the cut. You know, I don't know all the ins and outs here, but so. But the point being is that there's a language in the recipe book of how all of this stuff has to work in precise arrangements, just like the sentences or the letters in a sentence or the sentences in the paragraph, to make it all make sense. The language of those A, T's, G's, and C's on that DNA double helix is what's actually causing life to fix itself, to go on, to reproduce. This is what is actually, this is the language. It is a language because it serves as an actual computer language for the cell parts, so they'll know what function to perform, just like CAD/CAM in a car factory or jet factory. The programmers make a program. We'll pretend like this is a CD, and then they put that into a computer, and then that computer actually speaks to those machine arms on the factory. Well, that's exactly what DNA is doing. DNA isn't just a bunch of random mess. The RNA polymerase comes up there and actually reads it, and then it sends off the RNA and everything like it needs to in order to perform the functions in the cells, like what, I don't know everything, like whether it's like regulatory processes or fixing something up or tearing something down. This is what's doing it, this language right here. So also on this timeline, you have to be able to explain why the chemistry is actually giving rise to new creatures, because you can, like, I can't just draw a line here and then say like, well, if I draw a line and put a plus here, well, it looks like all of this could have came from everything else in this line. Well, now we know that there's little pieces of machinery that make up the actual eyes. So I can draw a circle here and say this is a light sensitive spot and this is a better eye, and now you get to a bigger eye. Well, that all looks convincing, but now that they know more about the biochemistry that's happening in life, they know that it's not as simple as people had formerly thought, and it was suggestive until they actually learned about the foundation of life and biochemistry. So now you have to account for why the chemistry has changed and why the chemistry is doing the things that it does, and what gave rise to the changes in chemistry that cause the entire function of a particular system, like the eye, to work differently, for example, in a man, as opposed to a reptile that has a light sensitive spot, or a starfish. So that probably sounds extremely complicated, but it's just basically the way I would explain it is it's like having little kid Legos and learning how those little kid Legos got put into a sophisticated system that like could turn into like a rocket ship and fly to the moon. It's explaining how this functional information could have given rise by a natural process, would be the way that the scientists would say it. But as far as the intelligent design people, they would say that God actually caused the put it together, put the machinery together. And that would also be my critique to them, is that I don't like that they don't say what God. Each individual one can kind of have their own God and an intelligent design. So like you could have an intelligent design Christian or an intelligent design Muslim, and that's my critique. But I personally believe that God did create everything and put that information and infuse it, as opposed to what the neo-Darwinists would say, like Richard Dawkins, and the atheist people or agnostic people who follow them might say that it was just the product of materialism, and material like rocks produced life, which we can't find any causal connection in that outside of what intelligent people have been able to produce, and no intelligent person has produced life. So life gives rise to life that we see, and I believe that God created the initial life. So anyways, I hope that this helps, and I hope that I didn't confuse you more. Thanks for watching. Bye.